Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Pravijakacharya Athatya Shishimad, His Divine Grace, the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananda Gauri Vaishnavanda ki Jaya, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jaya, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jaya, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki Jaya, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki Jaya, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jaya, Shri Maya Pranavidam ki Jai, Gangamaya ki Jai, Jamunamaya ki Jai, Tulsi Devi ki Jai, Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Somaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Gau Premanandi, all glorious some devotees, all glorious some devotees, all glorious some devotees, all glorious Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 5, Chapter 13, text number 11. Kvachit cha sitatapa vatavarsa patikriyam kartum anisa aste kuchin mito vipanan yach cha kinchid vidvisam vichiti uta vita shataya kvachit chasita tapavata varsha patikriyam kartum aniyas aste Kvachin mito vipanan yat chakinchid didvisvam richat yutavit tat yat Kvachit chasita tapavata varsha patikriyang kartum aniyasa aste Vachin mito vipanan yat chakinchit vidvesam richat yutavit sat yat Kvachit chasita tapavata varsha Pratikriyam kartum anisa aste Kvachin mito vipanan yat chachinchit vidvishvam richat yutavit sat yat There's an N, okay. Oh yeah, it's Satyat also. Next, who likes to chant? Zoomland.
Pachicha sitapa bhatavasya pratikriyam kartum anisha aste kachinmita vipanan yatcha kinchit vidvesham rachate utavita shatyat.
Kvachit, sometimes. Cha, also. Sita atapa vata varsha, of freezing cold, scorching heat, strong wind, and excessive rainfall. Patikriyam, counteraction. Kartum, to do. Anisaha, being unable. Aste, remains in misery. Kvachit, sometimes. Mitaha, one another. Vipanan, selling. Yatcha, whatever. Kinchit, a little bit. Vidvesham, mutual enmity. Richati, obtain. Uta, it is also said. Vitashahyat, because of cheating one another merely for money. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki. Sometimes a living entity is busy counteracting the natural disturbances of freezing cold, scorching heat, strong wind, excessive rainfall, and so forth. When he is unable to do so, he becomes very unhappy. Sometimes he is cheated in business transactions, one after another. In this way, by cheating, living entities create enmity amongst themselves. Purport. This is an example of the struggle for existence, the attempt to counteract the onslaught of material nature. This creates enmity in society, and consequently society is filled with envious people. One person is envious of another, and this is the way of the material world. The Krishna consciousness movement aims at creating an atmosphere of non-envy. Of course, it is not possible for everyone to become Krishna conscious, but the Krishna consciousness movement can create an exemplary society wherein there is no envy. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Mukum Krodaba Chalang Pangum Long Hayate Grim Yat Kripa Tadaham Bande Sugarum Dinataranam. Vanchikapatribhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In this world, it's a place of struggle for existence. The materialists, they're struggling to enjoy their senses. But devotees are also struggling. We're struggling to control our senses, to control our mind, to control our senses. And it's not easy. So this is the nature of this world, struggle for existence. And just like also in the forest, the animals, they're also struggling to survive. And then we have our concrete jungle, cities, PB, Pacific Beach, the jungle. People are struggling to try to enjoy this world. But actually there is no real pleasure in this world. A lot of frustration. There's a lot of frustration in this world. And the best way to get out of this struggle for existence is by service. Yato prasyayamanasya bhagavantam vibhavasham. In the Uddhava Gita, Krishna says that a person may be in a forest, and it's dark, late at night. It's dark, it's cold. So you can be a little fearful, animals, wild animals. But when one approaches a sacrificial fire, then immediately the cold, the darkness, the fear is dissipated. Similarly, in this world there's so much ignorance, there's so much illusion. But when one engages in the service of Krishna, and the service of the devotees, then immediately the darkness, the illusion, the Maya is dissipated. So this is the way to get free of this struggle for existence. But actually this struggle for existence, or struggle to please Krishna, it's actually very nice for a devotee to go out of one's way, to struggle to please Krishna. It's nice. It's like even Prabhupada's a Paramahamsa, pure devotee of the Lord, and he was struggling to spread Krishna consciousness. And he was, of course he had great success because, Krishna's helping him. But it wasn't easy. He said that he was traveling all over the world. How many times? 11 times or something. And the devotee said, well, Prabhupada, can't you just sit and write? Because this is your main, you're writing books. This is the main thing that you're leaving with us. He said, oh, and if I did that, then the whole movement would go down. I'm traveling around the world constantly to encourage the devotees. Prabhupada was such an amazing devotee. Because he was connected to Krishna. So the more we're connected to Krishna, the more we're free of this material struggle. Spiritual struggle is good, but the more we become Krishna conscious, the more we become free of this material struggle. Even amongst devotees, sometimes there's the material struggle. I remember in Miami there was a householder there, his wife, and another householder decided to have an affair with his wife, and he killed him. and some devotees were preaching at one prison and having great success. You know, so many prisoners were coming and taking to Krishna consciousness, chanting and reading Prabhupada's books. And this devotee that was preaching there decided to ask, you know, why are you in prison? What brought you in prison? It was on video and everything. And one of the guys said, well, my best friend had sex with my wife. I killed him. Yeah. Actually, in Vedic times, that wouldn't be a crime, right? Right? I think because someone takes your wife, that's you kill him. Someone tries to kill you, or someone takes your money. I think there's 6 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, there's a 5. So, but in our present judicial system, they don't know that. That's perfectly all right to do that. But yeah, people are struggling to try to enjoy this world, this darkness, this dark world, and even book distributors were out trying to distribute books and trying to get people in touch with Krishna, so they don't have to struggle in this materialistic way, so they could struggle for Krishna instead. And sometimes we're distributing books, and people throw the books away. And a devotee said, Prabhupada, we're distributing books, and sometimes they throw the books in the trash. And Prabhupada said, what do you expect? They're killing their babies in the womb. Yeah. So don't be surprised. You're taking some spiritual book and they're throwing it in the trash. I think in the Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada gives or Rupa Goswami, example of Lord Shiva and Parvati. They're in one village, and they're disguised as regular people, village people. And one person comes and asks for a donation from Lord Shiva, and he said, well, I don't have anything. You know? Common thing when we distribute books. No, I don't have anything. So he said, I don't have anything. And Parvati said, oh, go ahead, give him something. So he gave him a watermelon. So this person walks away with this watermelon. He's thinking, I don't even like watermelon. So he went to the village and he sells this watermelon for a few pice or something. And then the person that he sold it to opened it up, and it was filled with jewels, priceless jewels. So this person that got this watermelon, he didn't know that he had something so valuable. He just gave it away, practically. So similarly, people are getting Prabhupada's books, and they don't know that what they're getting is actually priceless. I tell that to people when I distribute books. What you have in your hand, this is priceless. Yeah. It's priceless wisdom. You can't put a price on it. Then I put a price on it. But not a set price. Give a range. But yeah, people don't know that this knowledge is so valuable. Priceless wisdom. People just read these books, and they can get purified and be qualified to enter into the kingdom of God. This is how powerful. And even a devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, many people, they're getting our books, but they don't get an opportunity to take initiation from you, or a guru. And Prabhupada made an interesting statement. He said, if they just read my books and they appreciate, then they're initiated. They can go back to God. If they just read my books, they follow the instructions, they appreciate the knowledge, they can go back to God. It's very interesting. Huh? This is the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So yeah, this knowledge is the guide back to the spiritual world. The path. Imagine, I think in the Krishna book, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's an example of 2 villages. And in between those villages, there's a path, a beaten path. And for whatever reason, people stop using this path. And if you stop using the path, what happens? It gets overgrown, weeds. And eventually so many weeds will grow on the path that there's no sign at all that there was a path. No sign. So we're on this journey back to Krishna. And what makes this a beaten path back to Krishna is hearing and chanting. Hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna. This keeps this path back to Krishna very, very clear, very clean. But if we forget, if we stop hearing and chanting, remembering, serving Krishna, then eventually this path, this bhakti path, gets covered over completely. It's completely covered over. And one forgets. In the Vedas, it's said that the greatest loss, the greatest anomaly, the greatest illusion is to forget Krishna even for a moment. Sahanischa namanascha. So this remembrance of Krishna is so important. By remembering Krishna, we get purified. The mind gets purified. And sometimes, people, they give up Krishna consciousness. The weeds grow, and they give up Krishna consciousness. There's one example of a lady. I recently read this. There's this book now, this Bond of Love, and it's all about the Vaishnavis. All Prabhupada disciples having remembrances of Prabhupada. And this lady, now I've heard it right from her. But there's different, you hear a story and then you hear, there's different versions that come out. So now I read it straight from her. She was a disciple of Prabhupada. And after Prabhupada left, things got a little unusual, to say the least. And especially the women went through really difficult times. Even one of them said that the brahmacharis were spitting on the women. I never heard that before. I mean, that's pretty gross. It's pretty. I don't know which country, but it got pretty degraded. There's that statement by Jamunacharya, Yadavadhi, no. Yadavadhi mamacheti Krishna padarvande, never rasadami rantimati. Tadavadhi batanari sangame smaryamani, bhavati mukhabikara susturanimcha. Almost. Yamunacharya, he says, since I've been engaged in the loving service of Krishna, experiencing ever fresh pleasure at every moment, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought. You see, he spits at his own thought. Not he doesn't spit on the women's like complete. And they all got married, of course. Offensive. So offensive. So, pretty interesting book. So anyway, with this story, this lady, she was, she went through some difficulties and she gave up Krishna consciousness. And for many years, she was, living in the material world, married a non-devotee. And she's driving down the street, highway, 70 miles an hour, and she gets in an accident. And the car is rolling. And she's chanting, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya. She's just over and over again, Krishna Chaitanya. And the car is rolling, and it stops, and it's upside down. It's on the roof. And then, of course, the emergency came, and they got her out. And neither her or her husband was scratched. Just no problem at all. And then when they got home, he asked, what was that you were screaming? What was that? And she said, oh, I never told you. I used to be a Hare Krishna. Oh, really? Yeah, and he just saved us. And he said, well, tell me more. So she just sat and preached to him for like hours, And he became a devotee. he became initiated. And she used to be a book distributor before, and she got back into book distribution, got back into Sankirtan, distributing books. So she went through that, huge turmoil. I mean, I can't imagine. Huh? I forgot her name. This is, it doesn't say where either. But this goes to show you that, once you're a devotee of Krishna, he's there, he helps. And sometimes these incredible difficulties give rise to becoming more Krishna conscious. Yeah. It's like Queen Kunti, she prayed for these anomalies, difficulties. And what is it Bhaktivinoda Thakur? He says, my greatest happiness is the difficulty I undergo in your service. That's inconceivable. Because when there's difficulty, that's when we take more intense shelter of Krishna. So it's actually very, very good. It's a blessing in disguise. Just like, of course, this pandemic has caused a lot of difficulty for some people, but it was a huge blessing for others. Just like Mahotsaha. Now he's in Atlanta doing huge. He wouldn't be doing that in New York. Imagine if it was in New York still. I mean, it's freezing there, and I don't know what they did. They would go to the subways, and struggling, the struggle for existence in the subways in New York, trying to distribute books. But they're doing huge now in Atlanta. It was a real blessing. I'm down here. Last year was my best year ever in book distribution. Balboa Park. It's like sweet. They're struggling in Los Angeles. There's not many places to distribute books. So it's a blessing. There's many blessings we can't see that it's a blessing. There's a story of a man who had one horse. And somehow the horse, it was a beautiful horse, and all the neighbors appreciated the beauty of the horse, and somehow it got away. And the neighbors came and said, "Oh, we heard your horse got away. Oh, that's so bad." And he said, "Well, maybe." And then a few days later, the horse came back with another horse. And then the neighbors are coming, "Oh, your horse came back. That's great. That's fantastic. And you got another horse. That's wonderful." And he said, "Maybe." And then his son is breaking in the horse. It's a wild horse. So as he's trying to break him in, he's butted off the horse and breaks his leg. And then some of the neighbors said, "Oh, I heard your son was breaking in the horse and he broke his leg. Oh, that's so terrible." He said, "Well, maybe." And then there was a war. And they were coming by and getting youth to join in the army. And they came to his house and, "You have any sons?" "Yeah, I have a son, but he's got a broken leg." "Oh, you can't use him." So it goes on and on. You think something's good or something's bad, but then it turns out to be just the opposite of what one may think. So this is the nature of this world, right? Dualities. We think something is good, something is bad. But if we become Krishna conscious, then it's all good. It's all good. There's no duality, because whatever Krishna arranges, it's wonderful. And this is one of the reasons why book distribution is so nice, because you may be distributing books and a lot of people aren't taking, but that's good, because everything is under the control of Krishna. Krishna is doing this to help me become humble, to become tolerant, and to be friendly even though people are not cooperating. So it's just a constant learning experience, a constant getting closer and closer to Krishna with whatever happens. And so it's actually a wonderful, wonderful service and opportunity to grow in Krishna consciousness. So I was reading recently that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he was leaving this world, it's described that he was so his body was so old that in order for him to see, they'd have to lift his eyelid to see. But he told the devotees, I want a horse to ride on, to spread Krishna consciousness, to preach Krishna consciousness. He told them, I want a horse to ride on, to preach Krishna consciousness. This is how much he was absorbed in preaching. And of course that mood that he had of preaching Krishna consciousness, actually he started this whole Namhat, which is all around. Actually, I heard, Lord Nityananda started it, right? Lord Nityananda. Huh? Marketplace of the Holy Name. So Lord Nityananda started, but then, of course, after many, many, many generations, hundreds of years actually, it became a little lost. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he picked that up again. And he had thousands of people involved in this Namhat. He was just so absorbed in preaching, and at the same time he was a judge, you know, and he had how many children? Like 10 children. I mean, it's just like inconceivable. And then he prays for a ray of Vishnu, and I need some help here. Yeah. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he arrives, and he completely picks up the whole mood of preaching. And then he comes in contact with Prabhupada, and he, evokes this mood of preaching Krishna consciousness to Prabhupada. It's just we're incredibly fortunate to be around at this time, so close to them being around. I mean, Jesus Christ, he was here 2,000 years ago. And they were very fortunate to have his association, Shaktiveshavatar. Now here we are just, here we have disciple of Prabhupada, Dravida Prabhu, here and grand disciples now. So close to that time that Prabhupada was here. So, and he left us all this incredible wisdom. In Jesus Christ, we have the New Testament. But there's not much teaching. There's a little bit. Something is there. And it was actually the New Testament was written 200 years later or something like that. Something like that. So who knows what was right. But here we have so much knowledge. The Bhaktivedanta purports. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and all these books are coming out. Still, they keep coming, I highly recommend this book, Bonds of Love. It's amazing, wonderful pastimes of Prabhupada. So we should imbibe this information that's being given to us, and this will help us to grow spiritually, and eventually we'll go right back home, back to God. So, is there any question? Yeah, please.
Ramapati Prabhu can confirm or deny my remembrance of this. The Namhat in Bengal, the way I recall it, was that after that attack by the Muslims who eventually took Radharani, they said this. When was that? That was 84 or so. And my recollection is that Bhakti Raghav Swami was there, and he was injured, and he was laid up.
He lost his leg.
Oh, he lost the leg at that time.
Yeah.
He had already had a problem with the leg. He was limping.
But then he lost it.
Yeah. So he was. But from his bed, I remember he started this, the Namahat. People would come and he would preach to them, and they were impressed, because he was injured. He was preaching so strongly. And eventually he started some like home programs, right, around Bengal, something like that. And he increased it. So, I mean, it's exactly, the idea that this adversity, he faced it, and full on, he got so much energy, and because of who he was and what he was a sannyasi already, but he got sannyasi after that. Oh, I see. Anyway, that's just one instruction. But if you allow me, this I saw in Dandavats. It's exactly according to your thing about how the adversity makes you grow.
Uh-huh.
Now, here, the second day, they show a picture of the sannyasi. You know who this is? He's an older sannyasi. Anyway, he's this kind of sannyasi. We'll figure out his name later. But he has this very short thing about this. It's called Through Hardships to Perfection. So he first tells the story. One day, a small opening appeared in a cocoon, and a man sat and watched for the butterfly for several hours as it struggled to force its body through the little hole. Then it seemed to stop making any... I have to do some on-the-fly editing here. Then it seemed to stop making any progress. It appears as if it had gotten as far as it could, and it could not go any further. You know this story?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's amazing.
So the man decided to help the butterfly. He took a pair of scissors and opened the cocoon. The butterfly then emerged easily, but it had a withered body. It was tiny and it had tiny and shriveled wings. The man continued to watch because he expected that at any moment the wings would open, enlarge, and expand to be able to support the butterfly's body and become firm. Neither happened, in fact. In fact, the butterfly spent the rest of its life crawling around with a withered body and shriveled wings. It never was able to fly. What the man in his kindness and his goodwill did not understand was that the restricting cocoon and the struggle required for the butterfly to get through the tiny opening were God's way of forcing fluid from the body of the butterfly into its wings so that it would be ready for flight once it achieved its freedom from the cocoon. Sometimes struggles are exactly what we need in our life. I'm going to substitute the name Krishna for God here, because this is God. If Krishna allowed us to go through our life without any obstacles, it would cripple us. We would not be as strong as we could have been. We would have never been able to fly. So then he has this whole series. I asked for strength, and Krishna gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked for wisdom, and Krishna gave me problems to solve. I asked for prosperity, and Krishna gave me a brain and brawn to work. I asked for courage, and Krishna gave me obstacles to overcome. I asked for love, and Krishna gave me troubled people to help. I asked for favors, and Krishna gave me opportunities. I received nothing I wanted, but I received everything I needed. Live life without fear. Confront all obstacles and know that you can overcome them by the grace of Krishna.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, very nice.
Meditate.
Yeah, so struggles are good. This helps us to become strong. And Prabhupada said that for one who is desiring a comfortable life in Krishna consciousness, advancement will be very slow. So, yeah, we should welcome struggles. And Prabhupada has given this nice service of book distribution where we're struggling to get people to take books, but at the same time, we get an opportunity to get purified. So we're getting purified. You want the microphone? Give him the microphone. Wait. Give him the microphone.
I was just remember when you mentioned that Radhanath, he was on a wheelchair.
Radhanath Das.
Yeah, Radhanath Das, not Radhanath Maharaj. And he was here at the temple. He made Balaram a devotee. He became a devotee because of Radhanath. He preached to him when he was 17 years old.
The perfection of yoga, right?
Yeah, and he was always distributing books, selling his flowers. He would offer the flowers to the deities, selling them at the post office or at Target and everything. He was always positive about it. And he never, ever, ever complained of his condition.
It's amazing.
Never. And he was so dedicated about Krishna, Prabhupada, always straightforward. One of the best examples you can find.
Yeah. And he was preaching. He was preaching. He was distributing books. it was all he had was the torso. No legs, no arms. He had arms. I guess he had. Couldn't use them. Yeah, couldn't use them. Yeah. And he was the devotee that was taking care of Nrsinga. He would move him around. So he was so light, just. But he kept on distributing books right up to the end, right? Pretty much. Yes, as far until he couldn't do it anymore. He was distributing books, and he also had this thing with the children. He had a children book or something. He was doing something with Krishna Kids. So, and he would invite people. He would have people come to his home, and he would have Namhat. They would come and they would hear him. It was pretty amazing. Yeah, I mean, you would think. And actually, I asked him, how did this happen with your body? When he joined, he was just a normal brahmachari. And then he said, he made a prayer to Krishna, whatever happens, I'll never leave you. So Krishna tested him. And from then he started having, a short time after, he started having trouble with his legs. Was he in Miami? Oh, okay. Right. So then, he was in a wheelchair, and then he gradually lost one leg. So Krishna really, he really tested him, and he passed the test. I'm sure he went back to Godhead. Yeah.
Because after years and years of this incredible going out in the wheelchair and everything,
Yeah.
he had some health crisis. He had some attack. He couldn't breathe properly, so he was in the hospital.
Mm.
And Brajendranandana Prabhu was here, and he would visit him every day, spend hours with him. He couldn't talk because he had the thing in his throat, but they gave him a pad to mark the letters, so he was able to communicate. And then, so finally they said, well, you're stabilized now. You don't have to die. I mean, basically, whatever medical term they use. But you have to be in a facility where you be on the breathing machine most of the day, So he said, forget that. I don't want that. So he decided to leave. So I'm going to leave the body. So he wanted me to chant. They asked me to chant at the time. I had a bunch of people ask me. So he said, well, can we do it on Friday? And I said, no, I'm going to go to Alatra on Friday morning. I used to go there all the time from here. So I said, okay, we'll do it on Thursday. So we all gathered. Balaram's mother also came. She was part of it, and a whole bunch of devotees who were there. And they pull the plug, turn everything off, and they started chanting. And he was just completely peaceful. He said, I don't want to live like that, completely dependent on nurses and everything. I can't do any preaching. So he decided to go, and it was a very smooth exit. It was wonderful.
Went back home. Yeah. Glorious departure. Yes.
In the beginning, you said that some people, no matter how hard they try, they can never obtain Krishna conscious. And then you said it's a sad state when someone gets Krishna conscious but forgets it or loses it.
Did I say that? I didn't say that.
I think halfway through you said someone can forget it or they can lose it. Something like that, I suppose. Could you explain what exactly you mean by Krishna conscious? Because the old saying says once one is awakened or enlightened, they are forever awakened and enlightened. So what do you mean by Krishna conscious?
Krishna conscious means conscious of Krishna. Now, sometimes people come and they practice Krishna consciousness, and for whatever reason, they decide to continue on in the material world. But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Neha Bikramanasosti pratyavayo nividyate swabma vyasya dharmasya trayate mahatobhaya. In this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So even though someone may come and spend some time practicing Krishna consciousness and then leave, it's there. It's there in the eternal spiritual bank account. And this story with this lady is just like completely amazing. I mean, for years and years and years, she had given up Krishna consciousness, but Krishna was there, and it came out with that difficulty, with that reversal accident. So actually, Krishna is there in the hearts of all living entities, but they've forgotten. So Prabhupada, Krishna, the pure devotees, they come here to try to revive that Krishna consciousness. And some fortunate souls are able to revive that Krishna consciousness. So this is the mercy of Krishna, if that happens. Did you have something to say? No. Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.